So begins another episode of the Inspired Disorder Podcast. With our hosts, Ray Taylor and Keith Spurlock. Disorder starts now.
Boom, bitches. We're back with another episode of the Inspired Disorder Podcast. And today, we are joined by the king of LA Speedweed and the Joint Studios, the man, the myth, the legend, Gino, a.k.a. the Thought Guru on Twitter. How you doing tonight?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Ray. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad to sit down and talk with you both.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on. So, for those that don't know what the fuck LA Speedweed is, or the Joint Studios, LA Speedweed is a nice little medical marijuana delivery service up in the LA area. And the Joint Studios is a fairly new podcast studio. You guys just started that. How long has that been?
It's been a few months now. I think we're on month number 6.
Nice. So
fairly new, yes.
So fairly new. So where did it all start for you? Where did you become ingrained? When did you know this is what you were going to do? Because you run everything, right? Well, I mean, you're the head guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It depends on how you're looking at everything, and I'll give you the breakdown. When we started at LA Speedweed, we started first as an edibles only company, and we were the only company maybe making medical gummy bears, medical marijuana gummy bears, and a few other flagship products like chocolate dipped Oreos and Rice Krispie treats and Chex Mix and Reese's peanut butter cups, whole bunch of different items. Once we became successful, we were quickly in about 65 collectives within 3 months from starting, because I applied all my business practices that I've taken from my other businesses and applied it to the medical marijuana industry. That's really what was missing, is professionalism. When I started, I moved out to California from New York City a few years ago, about 4 years now, 4 years ago. And I instantly started going to the weed shops. When I flew in for the first day that I landed in California, I went right to the DMV, got my driver's license, went right to the doctor, got my weed license, and by the first day, I was in the clubs. Because that was one of the main reasons I was moving to California, because I do believe so heavily in the medical marijuana movement. Now, this is before I had any ideas or designs to start a company, or even have an inkling that we could become the biggest collective in LA, which we've become.
So what were you doing before you moved out? What were you doing in New York?
So I own a few other companies. One of them is a multimedia company that was focused mainly on government software.
Okay, that's cool. So and then when did how long have you been doing creating? So you create businesses. That's kind of what you do. That's what you started out doing. Or
that's exactly what I do. And if someone ever pigeonholes me and says, "Oh, that's the studio guy," or "That's the celebrity weed guy," my answer is always, "You just don't know who I am then," because I do a lot of different things besides just besides just LA Speedweed or the Joint Studios. So it's important to me to I guess classify myself as a Renaissance man. I do like to have my hand into a lot of different businesses that all support each other. Like I mentioned, working with my multimedia company, that's one of the reasons Speedweed grew so fast, is because online we have, if you go to Google, we're the top 5 of the top 10 searched medical marijuana delivery services in LA. So just with that alone, we really were able to gain a lot of traction quickly. Most collectives in LA boast about 1,000 to 1,500 usual patients. since we're so large, we have five different locations, and within those from those locations, we could reach such a broad area. Our patient base is about 6,700, which is a lot larger than any one shop could ever be, because there's so many shops that as soon as you pass a certain mile, they're not going to that shop, they're going to the next one down the road.
Yeah. Have you ever thought about, or have you ever opened up like a brick and mortar dispensary?
I haven't, and I don't really have any desire to.
Yeah.
I feel that when you're looking at the true nature of the law that they're trying to pass with medical marijuana, a patient-to-patient delivery is the correct way to do it. When there's been, like, you're down in San Diego,
Yeah.
so you know that the government is even though they say medical marijuana is allowed in California, there are certain places that are anti-dispensaries.
Yeah.
And that's how it is in LA also. And they continue to try and pass laws to shut down dispensaries. But what they usually use in their language is that these are blights on society, that kids will pass by and they could smell marijuana coming from the actual store, or they're letting children into the store, or they're people who don't have their doctor's recommendations. So with our service, it is, again, tries to counter all of that to where you're not a blight on the community, because we go into someone's house, so no one, since it's a private meeting between two different patients, that no money is exchanged, because everything we do is by donation. So the money exchange is for the donation of our time to come out to do a consultation, our gas, mileage, things like that, which is, again, the correct way to do it. When you go into a dispensary, you're just paying a fee, just like a retail store. So again, trying to capture what the spirit of the law is what we're trying to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when did you start smoking weed?
Today, when I woke up around 11.
Okay.
I started smoking as a teenager, like most smokers do, behind the bleachers in high school, thinking I was the cool kid, and I was smoking to get high. That's all I knew. It wasn't until later on in life that I had an autoimmune disability, that rheumatoid, that attacks the joints in my hands and feet. So by trying to embrace medical marijuana, I didn't realize when I first started the healing properties, because I wasn't sick. So
Yeah.
it wasn't until I started having joint pain that I knew that marijuana was the key that was helping ease that pain without having to take strong medication. So
Yeah.
that's really a very important part of medical marijuana, to know that you are helping people out. It's great knowing people are getting high and enjoying themselves. I do think there are certainly mental benefits to smoking, besides just the physical benefits. So I do think you're getting medical regardless if you think you are or not. You are getting medical properties and healing from marijuana. But when you hear that one of my patients who was very sick is all of a sudden able to eat, they have stomach cancer and is able to eat because they're eating our gummy bears, or they're smoking some of our indica, that is a way better feeling for me than just a bunch of USC kids getting high on the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, the medical. Well, we're just go into everything. So what you have, what would be something that you would recommend to somebody that has like joint pain? Because there's different kinds of weed.
Sure.
There's different aspects to weed as far as like THC, CBD, CBN, all those things. But what would you like for somebody coming in with like pain, joint pain, or back pain, or something like that? What would be something that you would recommend to a patient?
Joint pain is one of the most prevalent diagnoses for medical marijuana. And specifically, you do want indicas, because has a higher CBD level, which is what gives you that body effect, and it also has anti-inflammatory properties. Now, both sativa and indica both have CBD, and both have anti-inflammatory properties, but indicas are higher in them. So a lot of times when you're eating edibles, which a lot of people feel is the correct way to take your dose of marijuana, you're eating edibles specifically because they're higher in the CBD level than they are in, say, their THC level. You're using those edibles more for the medication of it than for the mental high of it.
So is that most edibles are just made with indicas? Is that, or is it some edibles are, some edibles aren't?
It really could go either way, and
Uh-huh.
some people specifically only want a sativa edible because they're trying to feel the mental high off of it instead of just the physical slowdown and physical high of it. But that's not very usual. Most edibles are made with indicas specifically for that CBD level.
Yeah. So what is this? I know there's the CBN. What is that?
Well, CBN is so there are different properties in marijuana.
Uh-huh.
There's the THC, which gets you high mentally.
Yeah.
That's what affects your head. Okay, then you have the CBD, which is what gives you that that calming body effect. The CBN is when that CBD breaks down. So you do want to make sure your CBN, you don't want a high CBN level because that will take away from your medical properties of what you're smoking or what you're eating. So what we do when we have our edibles made is we have every batch tested before we put the oil into the edibles, and then after the edibles are created, we have them tested by a lab called the Workshop here in LA that will tell you exactly what your CBD levels are and your CBN levels are. So you know, because again, as a patient, you don't want high CBN levels. So that's important also. But you do want the high CBD level.
Yeah. So the CBN kind of like inhibits CBD.
Or
Or
it's the breakdown and deterioration of that CBD. So it's
Okay.
like if you have marijuana lasts a long time, especially if it's cared for correctly. It could last, over a year. However, if you wait a year, your CBN level is rising as your CBD level is deteriorating. So your CBN level will rise as time goes on with your medical marijuana.
okay. Because I've always seen that, and everybody knows THC, and then just, I mean, if you've listened to anybody that talks, with any kind of intelligence on the subject, you usually hear the CBD, and then especially if you're in California or anywhere there's medical marijuana, you'll start to see like the breakdown of all the things. I've always wondered what the CBN was because that's something I never really heard about. But
Yeah, when we talk about weed here in Ohio, since there isn't any medical, it's you just get your 3 levels. You get your shit weed, you get your mid level, and then you get your good weed. That's it.
Well, that's exactly how it was in New York as well.
Yeah, it's
And
East Coast.
right. So once you were buying your bag of weed in New York, it would be like, well, what do you got? They'd say, oh, you got hydro. But hydro isn't anything. That just is how it's grown. So, or you'd say, what is it? It's kind bud. Kind bud is not a strain. It's not a name. It's nothing. So none of those really describe what you're getting. Because it's even hard for someone to say it's hydro and someone to look at it and go, oh yeah, this is hydroponically grown. You wouldn't be able to tell that because a good grow in dirt will look exactly like a good grow hydroponically. So again, in New York, it'd be, you'd get your bag of weed and you'd say, is it green? And they'd say, no, it's brown. You'd say, okay, I'll still take it. Because you'd take whatever you could get.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
here in California, it's a whole different story. Can you have it come around for a second? Just say hello to the camera for me.
Who are you talking?
This is the Inspired Disorder.
Hi.
hey.
Hello.
You have a
How are you?
So bend down a little so they can see the right.
Wow.
This is Natasha Starr. She's here in the studio today with her sister Natalia. They're gonna do the Sam Phillips pajama party.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh,
nice.
Best friends.
Your job is so rough.
I know.
Are you serious? Okay, I'm sorry.
So now, who are you guys gonna introduce me to? You guys gonna?
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, right now.
It's gonna
Let
take
me
a
go
while.
wake up my girlfriend who will be really pissed off.
Yeah, I'll go find a neighbor or
Daddy's
something.
pissed off.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's always something good going on down at the studio.
That is by far the hottest
Jesus, do
interruption.
you want to adopt me?
Yeah.
I'm a stand-up comedian from Ohio. If you just adopt, I'll live at the studio. It's cool. I
Yeah.
won't take up much space. I'll do all the slave work. It's cool.
He'll live in one of your sock drawers in the mansion that you live in, which they talked about on the Naughty Show a while back, and that's an insane living situation you got there.
Well, recently I moved out into my own.
Oh, okay.
Why
would you do that?
So now I'm in a different spot.
Okay.
That will also be utilized for filming and camming and things like that. It's a beautiful 7-bedroom mansion with a pool and waterfall and grotto. And I have all my friends like Natasha and Natalia come over and spend some time on cameras, and that'll all be coming soon. Gino has new businesses every single day.
That sounds so horrible. Well, I'm sure Keith would let you stay at
like
his
I was
place
saying
if you ever
about
get
the
sick
adoption.
of it.
Jesus.
That's
Come on,
ridiculous,
let's not leave
man.
brother hanging here. I mean, my girlfriend's never gonna listen to this.
Yeah. She barely listens to you in real life. Why would she listen to the recorded
it's
version?
fun.
You asked me how I got started in Speedweed before, and
Yeah.
certainly Speedweed was not my first company. So as I build company after company, they're always meant to support each other. Not like LA Speedweed is a not-for-profit. And that's very important to us. We do run it as a full 501c corporation, not for profit. That's important. But my other businesses are for profit. So luckily with Speedweed, I get to meet a lot of celebrities and people who are in different businesses where they meet celebrities usually are just meeting celebrities. When you're actually going into their home and medicating with them, you become their friends quickly.
Yeah.
So again, I get to build businesses that all support each other, and luckily, marijuana is one of the greatest connectors for all of them.
It really is. I used to be in if let's say hypothetically, if medical marijuana was legal in Ohio, that I would have been involved in the same business that you are currently involved in when I was younger.
Absolutely.
But and you connect with people. But I will say this, once you stop being in that business, those connections that you made don't always usually last.
Well,
Which is a strange part of the game.
Absolutely, and I guess looking at it that way is the other reason why the rest of my companies that support these things also keep me involved and relevant in different people's lives that help out my studio and even my other businesses, because there are a few businesses that aren't talked about on the different podcasts, but really they all revolve around what we do here at the joint and what we do at LA Speedweed, and again, they all support each other.
So, do you want to talk about those businesses that aren't mentioned on other podcasts, on this podcast?
Well, there's a few, of course. I can mention number one, Herbal Eats, which is medical marijuana related again. One of the larger edible companies here in the LA area. Then LA Speedweed, again in the medical marijuana field. So those are our two not-for-profit businesses. Now our for-profit businesses are our original multimedia company that does software design and web applications and phone applications. Then Also, I have Wonderbox Productions, which is a production company. What you guys can't see from the podcast is in the studio, besides that broadcast studio, I have a 3,500-foot sound stage with a green screen and black box and white walls where you could shoot anything you'd like, commercials, infomercials. Recently, we shot LMFAO's video out there, Sky Blue from LMFAO. One of his latest solo projects, we shot their video out there. Besides doing that kind of work, like I mentioned, the Mansion project is up and running, and that'll be released in the next 45 days, which falls under the umbrella of our production company. And then we have another business that's going to be opening up that is in the livery field. So I'm opening a limo company that will be able to support the different celebrities and people coming down to the shows. Because besides doing Punch Drunk and a few of the other shows here, we do run 35 shows a week.
Yeah.
So there are always people in and out all the time coming specifically from Burbank Airport or LAX. And having, again, a support company that can pick people up and get them to where they need to be is a correct marriage for what I already do. And since I do work heavily with people who are involved in club promotion and Hollywood Boulevard and the adult entertainment industry, these are people who constantly need livery services, limos, vans, Escalades, things like that. So again, as a support company, that's one that's going to be up and running in the next 45 days as well.
That's awesome.
Have you ever thought of expanding to other states that have legal medical marijuana?
Or other cities south of Los Angeles?
I'm asked that often. And other cities, for sure. San Diego is ripe for speedweed to come down to. However, we're first expanding to Orange County, so that happens in the next 30 days. Our Tustin office will open up July 15th. And then from there, we do plan on going down probably to Oceanside and then San Diego eventually. You know, we've based our funny story is we based our whole entire model on the Hostess model. The way that the Hostess used to run their company was they would have everything made in one different in one location and then send it out to the next location. From there, they would go out to the next location, and from there, they would go out to the next location. So it just kind of goes every day, gets refilled down the line without 6 different cars or trucks having to go out to these different places. It just kind of,
daisy chains
flows down.
Now, is there ever a worry about one of your drivers or delivery people getting held up? Because I would think that would be something that would maybe happen.
Or just pulled over, because you never know.
Well, pulled over has happened. Since we are 100% legal, abide by the law legally, there's nothing that can be done to get them in trouble or arrest them. Besides that, their car would have to be searched by warrant in order to open someone else's bag that's stapled shut. And our drivers, we make sure our drivers are sober and are following the law when they're driving. We don't need people to speed. We don't need people to drive crazy to get there. This isn't Domino's. We do call ourselves Speedweed and want to get there as fast as possible. But on the other hand, we don't want anyone taking a risk or being driving crazy that they are going to get pulled over. Not just because of the police, but for everyone's safety. It's absolutely utmost importance. Their safety. If their delivery is within an hour and a half, they might be upset it didn't happen within 30 minutes. The second you get there with it, they are the happiest person you've ever seen.
Believe me, I've been that happy person on the other side of a delivery service, and I know the feeling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so again, LA traffic is crazy, and we call
Yeah.
ourselves Speedweed because we do try and get there as fast as possible. But a typical delivery is somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour and 15 minutes. So, which is still pretty speedy in LA. We do have a lot of heavy hitting celebrities that are way out in Calabasas area and Malibu that if they call during rush hour, it could be a 2 hour ride. So we just manage those orders specifically so that they know, hey, you're ordering today, it's 5 o'clock, it's going to be rush hour. You're going to get it around 7 p.m. So we try and keep every patient kind of in the loop and informed on what we have, on what to expect.
Well, that's cool that you don't have. I mean,
Oh, I apologize. I didn't answer the rest of your question. Being held up, we're not too worried about them being held up because we only deliver to someone's address that's on their license. It has to match what's on their doctor's rec. We are going into their house.
Yeah.
If we're being held up, we're being held up by people we could actually call the police on. So, thank God it's never happened. And the other thing is we sell all of our donations for any of our marijuana is by the eighth or by the gram. So if someone was to, and you could only order up to a certain amount legally per day. So you could only order up to 8 ounces per day. Now, most of our patients are ordering an eighth to a half ounce. They're not ordering all that much. So if someone orders, say, $500, $800 worth of to donate, that's a red flag for us to say, do we know this patient? If it's someone, because we could tell how often they've ordered before and that sort of thing.
Well, I
So,
mean, plus, like, I doubt that you have like Pizza Hut, like a sign that says LA Speedweed on
Of
the top
course
of the
not.
car, and
using different marketing techniques.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure.
we've talked about it. What would be the risk versus reward of getting pulled
Oh,
over
that
all
would
the
that would be
time,
way more
and
risk.
and dealing with it. I mean, we've even talked about having someone who wasn't delivering just driving up and down the boardwalk on the beach towns with an LA Speedweed van with nothing inside it. But the
I'd be
thing,
scared to drive that van.
Yeah.
you'd have to have someone who it never carries anything, and
Or that has a concealed carry license. I don't know if you can get those in California, but
well, that's certainly something that I wouldn't want to
that's
put someone
horrifying.
in that position.
Yeah.
And again, but we don't want to. That's not what we're trying to portray.
Yeah.
We all, again, we don't want to be a blight on the community. So even though that's been thrown around as, hey, a marketing effort, it's not something that I think we would ever pursue because we do want to always be considered at the forefront of medical marijuana and not just trying to throw it in the government's face saying we're doing this.
Yeah.
If all we want is for us to have guidelines we could follow. If we have guidelines we could follow, we're going to follow them.
Yeah. And what
You
do you
guys have
think about?
T-shirts out yet?
Say again?
Any LA Speedweed T-shirts out yet? That'd be good marketing.
we don't have them out for sale or to give away yet. We do put them on the different girls that work in the conventions for us and things like that. People do tell me all the time I got to get those Speedweed shirts out. It is probably a marketing effort that we are going to undertake this year.
Nice. So what would you? I remember when the I think it was California, Colorado, and Oregon, or no, Oregon, Washington, and Colorado had legalization on the bill.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even before that, when California did, there was stories of people who own dispensaries not wanting it to go through, or it probably more so illegal. People who were selling illegally or outside of the law. What would be your thought on if marijuana just became legal, like they regulated it like alcohol?
So I'm in a slightly different position than a lot of those dispensary owners,
Yeah.
mainly because when I work with high-end clientele, celebrities and people, wealthy people, things like that, and I work with them specifically through me, they get to know me, and it becomes a personal thing. So even if it was legalized, they would still need to go somewhere.
Yeah.
And instead of going to Kmart or wherever, they're still probably going to call the person they trust,
Yeah.
that they know is always going to
Hey,
take care of them.
pizza's legal, and I still call people to deliver that to my house, even though I
Oh,
can
fuck
make
yeah.
it there myself.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm in a slight, and also since I do run other businesses, I'm in a slightly different position than everyone else. I want legalization. I'm all for it in every single state. It could only help. It's coming. It's just slowly turning wheel, but it's definitely coming. I don't think we're gonna go backwards at this point. I do think from here out, even though a lot of people are still fighting it, it probably is not going to go backwards at all.
So have you heard anything? Do you know of anybody in like Colorado or not? Colorado or Washington, where it has been legalized? Like, have you heard of how it's going or any news as far as that?
I feel like Colorado specifically is going to be a hard state to grow in still because they are very regulated by the government. A lot of inspections and things like that. So people are still going to have to follow the law. But if because it's legal in Colorado, if they open up a huge warehouse where they're killing it with 100 lights, trying to yield 200 pounds a run, the federal government is going to come in and shut that
Oh
down.
yeah, yeah.
It doesn't matter that it's legal in Colorado. The feds will say, "Hey, we're not Colorado. We're the feds. We come shut it down." So I do think that even though it's legal, it's still going to be hard to just open it wide open. The
But
other thing,
I think that the legality of it though will make a lot more people grow their 5 to 6 plants and
yes.
not
Yeah.
and if more people are doing that all at the same time, you're just flooding the market, which is great for the legalization because I mean at that
Sort
point
of.
at that point like if it's just a little bit from here and there instead of just a mass amount from one area, I don't think that they can clamp down on it as much as you would think.
You're
Like,
correct on that, but I will need to point something out. Have you ever grown a pot plant?
yeah,
Now, when you grew it, how did it turn out at the end?
for me, because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing when I did it, it
Hmm.
was a big pile of shit. But
Now, and you
I do know enough people to where that have done what I couldn't do and have done it super well enough to where I can just ask for their help and then know exactly what to do.
I would
but
have a feeling that a lot of people would try and do it. Like it would just be like a flood of people trying to do it.
I tried it
A
before
lot of
the
people
internet.
won't. Just like tomatoes. Like you can easily grow your own tomatoes instead of going to buy, and those are fucking easy to grow, and it's you just have to water it. Most people don't fucking do it. So I think the ease of it, a lot of people just don't want to have to worry about it. But I think it'd be like there'd probably be a flood at first, and then it would die off. That'd be my
because
prediction.
it's real easy to grow weed. It's real hard to grow good
It is, yes,
marijuana.
I totally agree with that.
So back to your point of if everyone was growing, there's still going to be a need for dispensaries
Oh,
and
oh
things like
no,
that.
I totally believe that your service is it's a genius idea because recently in the town that I live in, there were a couple of kids that decided to start a delivery service where they would deliver fast food and or wherever you wanted from. You would call them with your order from wherever you wanted, and they would order from there or just go through the drive-through or whatever, and they would charge you a $3 delivery fee.
Yeah, I do that all day. I take that.
And that was but I mean for an area like this, which I live in like a suburb of nothing, it's like 40,000 people in this town, but it's not around anything else. It's just farm towns around us. But it was a genius idea. It didn't last. The kids didn't market it well enough, and really, around here, I don't know. It's a weird market. There's old money, like Marathon. I don't know if you guys have Marathon gas stations out there,
Mm-mm.
but yeah. Marathon Oil is a big gas station thing out here, and their headquarters is in our town. And a couple other like really old like big money business. So there's a lot of old money in our town,
Mm-hmm.
but yet nothing can survive. Like our mall is like 7 stores and like 14 empty shops right now. Like it's the most ridiculous town that I've ever seen, and I've traveled a lot.
Sure.
And I live here.
Yeah.
It's fun because I mean I'm a stand-up comic and it's easy to make fun of this shit.
Yeah,
But,
but on the other end, you don't have a lot of spots close.
Oh no,
Perform.
the other part is it's horrible because I live in the middle of fucking nowhere. And
Especially when you got to bring people to the show.
man,
Yeah.
it's so hard. I run my own open mic night with a buddy of mine. And it's not really an open mic because it's paid. So it's like an invite, like everyone does 10 minutes. We got a couple unpaid sets that are like 5 just to give people a chance to, if they're good, we'll pay them. But I'm seriously only a year into doing stand-up comedy, but there was none in our town, so me and a buddy decided to start our own show.
Mm-hmm.
And then, some other people saw us, they liked us, so we got introduced into the community so we could actually book like 9 comics a show every month. But the summer, like that's another huge thing, and that's everywhere for comedy. The summer is horrible
Yeah.
for comedy shows because people want to be outside. Like obviously around here more because it's nice a lot where you're at. Yeah,
Yes,
well,
it
it's
is.
horrible for Gino, from being from New York.
Sure.
The winter is fucking miserable out here.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone will want to come out to a comedy show all winter long. But in the summer, everyone wants to be at the lake or at the ocean or, doing something outside.
Sure.
So comedy shows are impossible to fill out here. And so every month our attendance goes way down, like by half.
Don't worry.
Sure.
It'll go back up. Just give it a few months.
Yeah, exactly. But you got to wade through the shit to get to the end.
Yeah. So, with the Joint Studios, you have a ton of shows now.
Yep.
I mean, I found out Keith and I have been a fan of the Naughty Show and had most of those guys on. And they went to your studio, and then I remember one week because I used to watch them live. You had, or somehow I think I got an email. It's like saying you guys were live. I went there, and you had like this collection, like these 7 or 8 guys who were like the most educated and knowledgeable weed gurus. At least that's from the conversation I was listening to. I don't know what show that was, but it was like they were breaking down like the lineage of naming of weed. I was like, what is going on right now?
So that's an actual podcast that exists outside of the Joint Studios. They broadcast, it's called Hemp Beach, but they broadcast out of Florida. So when they were coming to LA for one of the conventions, I believe it was HempCon that we were at, I invited them to come down to do the podcast out of the Joint. So and certainly every time they're in California, we're gonna do one of their shows out of the Joint because it was great. To me, I'm asked all the time to do a marijuana podcast, but I simply don't feel like I would be a good host. I'm a good guest. I'm happy to talk, but it takes a lot to be a host. I know that because I watch Sam, and he is an expert at it. So. So when they came, was Hemp Beach and the Potcast, POT, the Potcast. Both are 2 different podcasts that we had come together, and we just did the Podcast, Hemp Beach, and the Joint all together as a round robin table to talk about what was going on in marijuana. And I had such a good time. It really makes me want to do a marijuana specific show. And with the right co-host, I think we'll put one on.
That'd be awesome, man. Because that's one thing, like, even though it's kind of like watching a TED Talk. Like, you watch TED Talk sometimes, and sometimes that shit just goes over your head, but you'll grab little shit, and you're like, holy crap, there's like a whole other layer to what the fuck is going on. And that's what it was like. I mean, I already knew little things about just, marijuana and the differences and, just little things. Probably more than just your average person that has never smoked. But, listening to that, it's like they were breaking down the lineage of, or the misconception that was going around of, like, Girl Scout cookies, I think, was the strain. And they were breaking down, like, where it came from and how, like, it's not, like, everybody boasts that they have it. How knowledgeable are you with, like, breaking down all of that stuff?
I feel like I am the smartest guy in the world until I get into a podcast with guys like that really know every little detail about marijuana. As far as the layman goes, certainly I'm just, since I'm involved in so many conversations about it, I get to pick up the tidbits from everywhere. But really, within the industry, which is a small group out here in California. Within the industry, I am, low man on the totem pole. There are people who are way more knowledgeable than me that impress me every time I get to listen to them talk about hemp, about the medical properties of marijuana, about how to create concentrates and things like that really are now at the forefront of what the medical marijuana industry is. These are people who are, again, experts in what they're talking about. I only consider myself a jack of all trades, marijuana being one of them, where, again, those guys are real masters in it. I never want to, make myself seem like more than I am, because I am still a student myself, and I'm just lucky enough to take what I believe in with positivity and put it into my company and connect people and hope that what I'm doing is helping everyone out. But certainly it's the people who are smarter than me about marijuana that are moving the medical marijuana movement forward. All I could do is get the word out there. They're the ones who really know what they're talking about.
For sure. Yeah. So do you know, is there, I know there's like conventions and stuff like that. So are you familiar with like a lot of the owners of dispensaries and other delivery services in California?
Yeah, absolutely. But keep in mind a statistic that's out there is that there are more dispensaries in LA than there are Starbucks. So there are a ton, and they're all privately owned, and there's only a few of us that own multiple ones. So again, I have five different shops. Most places just have their one shop, and that's how they do their business. So I do know a lot of them, but again, since there's so many, it would be hard to, we're talking about over 1,000 people.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I remember seeing, I think it was Doug Benson's Super High Me, how it like showed the numbers and how they skyrocketed. Although I'm sure that's gone down over the the past, was it 2 years? How dispensaries are getting shut down. For a while there, they were getting shut down, at least in San Diego, left and right. Sure. But yeah, I would imagine there's. So do you guys have like a secret Illuminati, a secret like weed, like maybe you can't talk about it, but just like give us a sign if there's secret weed parties?
I'll tell you, it's not really much of a secret, of course, but there are different places like Normal LA, which is a organization that is really trying to push forward medical marijuana. They're not just about smoking weed. So I do sit on LA's board there and help out as much as I can. Bruce Margolin, who's the president of LA Normal, is great. He's the #1 medical marijuana attorney in LA for any kind of criminal case. He is excellent at what he does. And I'm happy to be associated with those guys, because really what I'm doing is trying to help out patients and hope that I could follow guidelines set by the government. They're actually trying to push the envelope with the government and get everything fully legalized and again a correct outline of guidelines to follow so we can be legal, because that's all we want. We don't want to be considered criminals. We just want to be have safe access to our medication.
Yeah, it's like the shitty thing is it's a prohibition that's been going on forever, and the people that are being prohibited because they use it are naturally a lot nicer than other people. So it's as opposed to alcohol where, I don't know, this is a stupid theory that I just came up with right now. Because everybody that smokes weed is way more nicer, and it's a lot harder to get shit through our shitty government because we're way too nice.
Well, again, what you said really goes back to what I was saying about people who are getting high are still getting mental medicine. It's still something that I feel has evolved my whole entire way of thinking throughout the years. I feel like I would be a different person if I wasn't a marijuana smoker. So I do feel again that even though people can't pinpoint it and say, "Hey, I smoke marijuana, so I don't have this mental disorder," I think again that's what's happening, because most likely if I wasn't a marijuana smoker, maybe I would have to take Paxil or some other kind of mental drug, mental that gives you an equilibrium.
Yeah.
But I think there are a lot of people who don't ever get to that point and that need to talk to a psychologist because they're just medical marijuana smokers.
Yeah.
I've actually went through that where I was on antidepressants for a long time, and I think that it just made me feel so much weirder than I ever did from smoking weed, that smoking weed just helped that whole depression thing. But have you ever been anywhere like Amsterdam where it's completely legal?
I haven't been to Amsterdam yet. I was supposed to go this year, and I didn't make it out there. I do plan on going next year. Let's see, I've been to Mexico where it is not legal whatsoever, and even traveling with VIPs, the police were still knocking on our hotel door. And with the security of the hotel and everything like that. And you would think that, hey, they invited this VIP down there, there would be some slack. There was zero slack. So, and then I've also been to Canada where where we've been caught and let go by the authorities with marijuana with no card or anything like that.
Yeah.
I actually went to Amsterdam like 3 or 4 years ago. It's really the only time I've been besides Canada and Mexico outside the country.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I don't know, it was just great to see a place where there was no real violence. People were walking down the street, with their kids and shit, past coffee shops.
Mm-hmm.
It just wasn't a big deal.
Sure.
And I mean, it's just a tourist thing there.
California is getting similar to that. You could really just be walking down the street and see someone smoking a joint. I think certainly the feeling of the people is going that way. Now, I'm not really all for that again because of the position I'm in. I still want people to smoke at home. I don't like when children are around, when people
No, neither do I.
But I do like that it's a free environment. And again, I'm a libertarian, so I feel I should be allowed to do what I want to do if I'm not hurting anyone. And if that's me smoking a joint, I should be allowed to walk down the street and smoke a joint if I could walk down the street and smoke a cigarette or...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one causes cancer, one potentially or does cure cancer.
Right.
And what do you think about all it seems like vaporizers have been, I don't know, blowing up is the right analogy to use for it, but it seems like there's a lot of people are talking about vaporizers and all that, and especially because you don't know, it's like especially e-cigarettes. A lot of people are doing the e-cigarette thing, so it looks the same.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the vaporizers are getting very big in the industry right now. And if you go to conventions, that vaporizers and concentrates are where it's at. Now, this is what we have here. Now, you see it. It looks exactly like the e-cig.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're using this, no one no one knows that you're not smoking an e-cig. I brought this to the Kings game. Excuse me. I had a girl drag me to watch Die Hard 18 or whatever number it was on.
Yeah.
Thank God I had this vaporizer with me that I could vape right in the movie theater. So it's not noticeable, and it's a safe way to smoke. You could smoke in pretty much any place that you could smoke an e-cigarette in.
Yeah, and that for the listeners, the audio listeners, it looks like a cigarette. When you suck on it, the tip glows like it would, like a normal cigarette. What's inside of that? Is that like a specific cartridge for that brand? What's the company too?
So these are these are imported by us and
Okay.
filled. So and they're disposable. So once you're done with them, you just throw them out.
Oh, okay.
The donation for something like this is about $65, and that's inside. You get about 100 to 120 pulls on it. So with that, it's probably somewhere between an eighth and a quarter. Excuse me, worth of an equivalent.
Okay. That's
Now,
cool.
is that
man.
hash oil in there?
It is a hash oil. It's a concentrate of wax and oil that is also has a glycerin base to it. So it comes in sativa or indica. So you know what kind of concentrate you're getting. Because again, some people just want the sativa so that they have a lower CBD content even when they're using the vape. Now, once you're into concentrates, it's the levels start to even out a little more either way, but again, a sativa cartridge will give you more of a THC boost than an indica cartridge will.
Nice. So
I
what?
can't wait till medical gets passed here in Ohio so I can understand what all this means. Because I've even went over to Amsterdam and like you get CBD and BBD and PFC and
PVC.
all
yeah.
that to me, I'm like, hey, I just love it when I get some really good weed out here in Ohio because sometimes it's few and far between.
It is definitely different living in a place. Not that I would know specifically.
What, this
Can I
one?
sit in your chair?
I'm doing a podcast right now. Hold on. Yeah, take it.
Bye, Sam. Bye.
So,
So Sam
Bye.
Phillips is doing her podcast right now, and I guess they are minus a chair because they're having some male dancers give dances to our females in the room. So
okay.
Jesus,
that's
do you
why I'm
need any
sitting on this
interns
podcast.
there?
I need to
Like,
watch them.
is interning there for free a possibility? Like, I need to move out to California to do comedy anyway, so I need to be an intern at the Joint Studios.
Strange that you would say that. Just in a meeting we had last week, I did tell them to put up an ad to get interns for the studios. Because
Holy shit, that I'm getting in straight with the boss. Hey, boss, I need to be a fucking
Interview him
intern.
now.
you want to hang out and take pictures for free and sit by the door and bring everyone in?
I'm doing comedy and no one's gonna fucking see me in Northwest Ohio.
You're even allowed to do material as people come in.
Holy
Oh
shit.
shit! Now, do you want people to still go in, or do you want them to like turn their heads and just walk right out? Because I don't know. If
I'm a sexy bitch, Ray. You better fucking watch yourself. I just don't dress up for the podcast.
Oh, okay, that's it.
No one watches these.
No. Like maybe one or two. You know.
Well,
You
the
know, I
government, I'm
always-
sure the NSA is watching, but
the NSA, FCC,
I mean,
NSA.
we just found out that they're watching everything. So, fucking.
If you go back to the Naughty Show past podcast, you'll see I wear a different shirt in every single podcast. I make sure I never
Yeah.
wear the same one.
Yeah, Keith.
I'm a big vintage shopper, so my wardrobe's important to me.
Popping tabs like Macklemore. All right. Keith?
That song must have been written about me.
It must have been written. So what other trends are you seeing in the whole weed industry besides vaporizers? Is there anything else that's kind of taken off?
Yeah, again, concentrates are where the industry itself is
The
going.
dabs? Is that
Um,
all the
um,
dabbing?
but among my patient base, concentrates are still maybe a 5 to 10% of what's ordered. It's not switching over like it is in the industry itself. Now, so that's a strange phenomena that I can't explain. That the masses who aren't into weed, who aren't don't consider that one of their hobbies or their lifestyle, are mainly just into smoking flowers. But the people who are actually into weed are more into vaporizing and concentrates. Again, for me, it's not. I like smoking flowers because I don't need to get that super concentrated high. I like to be able to regulate my own, and I really enjoy the taste and passing around the joint over being so high that I could hardly function. As again, I do a lot of things, so I can't be just zoned out all day long.
Yeah, yeah. So what's your favorite? What do you go for? Or do you have favorites?
I do have a favorite. I would say Jack Herrera is my absolute favorite.
Ooh.
But I do like sativas. Most of my artists, especially the Grammy-winning type of artists, musical artists, they are specifically into sativas because they don't want to be brought down. They are looking for that creative
Yeah.
and artistic high, and Jack Herrera is one of those strains that gives that to you.
Now, do you guys offer blue cheese?
Blue cheese, absolutely. That's a high.
That
Yeah.
that is one of my favorite strains, and that's a Barney's original.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went to Amsterdam, I actually went to Barney's,
Sure.
and that's where I picked that up. And out of all the strains that I've ever seen, it's the ugliest looking when it
Sure.
grows
Mm-hmm.
because it's a bunch of little pellets on the end of sticks. It looks like a sick plant.
Sure.
But again, they don't sell any stems. They don't give you, like, everything there is broke off, and they actually get to deduct stems in their taxes
Mm-hmm.
for
Sure.
what they bought in weight to what they have in stems.
Sure.
So you don't see huge tops, like you never see big tops in Amsterdam.
Hmm.
Like, it's all, and I think the growers will save them for themselves or whatever, or whoever owns the shop. But it seems like more of the bottoms of the plants. But it's just such a selection. And with me not living out in a place where medical is an option, when I went there for the first time, it was fucking. I always describe it as Disneyland for adults,
Sure.
because you just go in there and they're like, "Here's a menu," and you're like, "Well, let me see this," and they pull out a Tupperware and open it up, and
Yeah, that's
you
like
know, from-
California. You have a
exactly.
menu,
Like, I've seen
specials.
plenty of documentaries about the dispensaries and
Yeah.
shit but I mean, that's even more closed up than it is over there, because there it's like a coffee shop. It's just
Yeah.
behind the counter. It's not like behind, like, the one glass room in when they let you in one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a coffee shop where there's tables, there's a counter.
Well, different dispensaries here are set up differently, and there are some that are like that are almost look like a coffee shop.
Oh, right on.
Now, it's a gray area of the law how they're allowed to be set up, but there are some dispensaries here that have a hash bar that you could just smoke hash at, buy hash, and just like if you were at a bar buying a drink, and they'll load up your hash hit right there. Again, that's not what I feel is in the spirit of the law, but there are places like that.
In my state, hash is a felony. It's not marijuana is such a misdemeanor here, but because hash is processed,
hmm It's the processing that
it
kicks
technically
in the
makes it a
legality.
felony here. Yeah.
Now, that's the same in California. That it is illegal to process your concentrates. It's not illegal to to have the concentrates, but it is illegal to process them. So, excuse me. So that's a gray area of the
So
law
you
that
can
they
sell
need
hash,
to
but you
find.
can't make hash.
Right.
So it's like hemp,
You can possess
kind
it.
of.
You can't.
Yeah.
You create it.
Yeah. So what? Why is hemp still illegal? Like, why? You have to have all the answers. I'm assuming.
God damn that Randolph Hearst.
Yeah.
That you could go back to Randolph Hirsch
Yeah.
and or conspiracy theories. I really just feel that it is one of those things that got into the American public and just ingrained through say no to drugs, and this was a drug, and
Yeah.
people are not ready to give that up because the biggest block of voters is still seniors. So it's not going to be until our generation starts becoming the senior generation that really things could change.
I
'Cause
think the
most
DARE
people don't vote.
program really helped that out too.
Say one.
Oh,
The
yeah.
DARE program.
Yes, of
Do you
course.
remember? Do you remember the Nancy Reagan DARE program? Like that, everyone did that,
Sure,
and
just say no. Right.
but that died out.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that since that died out, like you were saying, that once we're probably in our 50s, 60s, that there's not going to be anyone left who was really forced through that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's
Right.
so ingrained in the culture now. Like everyone listens to hip hop and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. It's like it is that older generation, you know, and as they leave and we take over, it's most social issues are like that, like gay marriage, you know, legalizing marijuana, like all these things that don't really make any sense to anybody, especially with the knowledge and the information that's out now, like how ridiculous a lot of these things are. It's a bound to happen unless unless they shut down the internet, and then there's a generation of people growing up without the internet. But it's like to most people, especially younger people, this all this stuff is like this doesn't make any sense.
But it is about voting.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, that most people just don't go out to vote, and they don't connect things with, hey, I got to get that out to vote during a non-presidential election year, because guess what? Medical marijuana was up in California during a non-presidential election year, and it failed.
Yeah.
So the thing is, it might have passed if it was during a presidential election year, but if you ask people, did you go out to vote for a non-presidential election year? I got to say 9 times out of 10, I get a no.
Yeah.
So,
And those are the people actually going out to vote. Like there's a small percentage that actually go out to vote. When they do, it's only for presidential elections.
right. And so the people who are actually voting are controlling a lot of America. And it's unfortunate because, like you said, you talk to people and this isn't the feeling that's around. It's not the feeling of every single person you seem to meet, but yet it becomes the law. You know, I know so few people that are just anti-marijuana. I'm not just talking about don't smoke. Plenty of people don't smoke. But most of those people that don't smoke are still pro-marijuana.
Yeah.
So how does it keep getting shot down all across America? Well, it's the voting, the voters.
You know what I think's a big switch, and it's just happening right now because of all this NSA and all these other the IRS scandal, everything that's going on right now. Even the older generation that I know, and I live in a super Republican town. Like our local paper was called the Republican Courier, and they dropped the Republican, and it's now just the Courier.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the type of town. It's old oil money town, but somehow in Northwest Ohio, and even they are so disillusioned with all the government that they're all going libertarian.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what it seems.
And which is just, do what you want. Just don't stop fucking with me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as far as weed, it doesn't affect it. Well, with all the different things that people do in the privacy of their own home that only affect themselves. Why is it illegal to do? Like, you're trying to. A lot of laws are trying to protect stupid people or people that make bad decisions. And it's like people are going to make bad decisions with or without a law. So whether you have law on the book, it doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to make a bad decision. because that's just what they happen to do for whatever reason. So having marijuana or cannabis, illegal to the point it is, Schedule 1, it's like that doesn't make any fucking sense. So I don't know. It seems like it's, especially with the news of like certain organizations being able to do clinical trials on fucking the mind-altering psychedelics. Like it seems like there's a little bit more leeway as far as letting other things that used to be so off the books, especially after the 60s and 70s, that are now like we're starting to accept it, and that's probably a lot due to generations, just younger generations getting older and getting into places that make the decisions that are going on.
Yeah. One of the other points I think would be important to try and change things is if you explain to people who don't really care about marijuana how much money it costs them in taxes to put people in jail and for years for marijuana, maybe they would start listening, because they would say, oh my God, you mean I've paid this much money for people to go to jail for weed? Because it's an astronomical amount of money. And certainly it's not where our taxes need to go. I mean, I could say with certainty there are way better places for our money to go.
Yeah, it's interesting when I never watch the news. I hate the fucking news, but when I do turn the news on and there is a crime, and it seems like everybody who commits a crime, they end up being busted like, oh, there was marijuana in the system. It's like that has nothing to do with anything, because that shit stays in your system for a long time. And there's a lot of other drugs that, I mean, generally people that are high on cannabis aren't going out doing crazy shit. They're at home. That's why LA Speedweed is so popular, because people want that shit delivered. They don't even want to go out to get it. So they're not going to wait for shit to get delivered to them, get high, and then like, oh, let's go cause some fucking trouble in the city. It's like they're doing some other shit, and maybe they smoke some weed to calm down from their other shit. So, it's just ridiculous that the news is pretty fucking ridiculous as it is, but that they still try to use that as the scapegoat for crime. And it, like the whole, was it last year when in Florida, when the dude was eating the other dude's face off, is like, oh, it was bath salts at first or whatever the fuck they said it was, and then like,
it was weed. Yeah,
and then it was just like, nope, it was just weed, man.
And that's crazy. It's crazy to say that, because that's a crazy person. Mm-hmm. Whatever they were on, I'm sure we didn't even get the full list.
Yeah.
Because you don't. Marijuana is not gonna make you violent in the least.
Yeah.
You gotta have
crazy
that
people do crazy shit. Yeah. No matter what they're on.
Well, I kind of say that all the time. That for years the stoner, persona was the lazy dude. But I think the real reason why is because those lazy dudes didn't care about telling people. Yeah. But the people who were successful, like myself, running a company that dealt with government software, wasn't talking about, hey, I'm a smoker. So for throughout my 20s, I was all American boy. I couldn't talk about smoking or what it did for me personally. I had to not talk about that. So successful people, lawyers, doctors, and whoever that have been smoking just haven't been able to talk about it. Now, going back, I just said doctors. I don't think doctors who are surgeons should be smoking. I don't think people who have a job that it can affect their job, just like if they have to take Ambien or something else, they should not be taking it. So, but
unless it's in their free time.
Unless it doesn't affect their job, of course.
Yeah, I don't know if I want a brain surgeon going to work on me high, but I would almost rather him. I would definitely rather him at the end of the night wind down with like an indica than I would, a few glasses of scotch.
Right.
And that's the thing that you see, the perceptions of people. Yeah, nobody talks about it. One, because the stigma, the old stigma, and even if it is, legalized medically in California, a lot of people, that work 9-to-5 jobs, no job is cool with you smoking. So it's like you can't openly talk about it. But
unless you do stand-up comedy.
But you don't have like you not have somebody that signs your every check. You have
Yeah, you
check.
do.
It's a little different.
Club.
Yeah. Well, as soon as the clubs start banning comedians for smoking weed, that'll be a dark day in our society.
Yeah, but you can cut half of all comedy out.
Yeah, you could probably cut a lot
Instant.
more. I bet there's a lot of comics that don't even. I guarantee you, most people that you don't think smoke weed actually smoke weed, and it's more of the stigma. And that's one thing. If you do talk to somebody, like, you are able to open up and let them know. It's like, especially if it's somebody who drinks, if you tell them, it's like, I decided to smoke weed instead of drinking at the end of the night to wind down because it's healthier for me, I guarantee you they're not going to say anything. If they're like in reasonable age, they'll be like, yeah, that's true, because it's like, it is healthier. I mean, it you know, you drink alcohol, that's a poison. Your body does no benefits to you, even though, well, it may be somewhere in there, but it's way more detrimental to your health than anything.
I'm not gonna hate on it though.
No, I'm not gonna hate on it. Fuck no.
Yeah.
As I
kind of enjoy it.
Yeah.
Quite often.
However, marijuana is far more healthy for you than
if
alcohol.
Someone's gonna hold a gun to my head, I gotta choose one.
Yeah. If I had to choose one substance to be legal,
it's gonna
illegal,
be weed every time.
Yeah.
You know, a partner of mine in my multimedia company used to wind down at the end of the night while he was still working with a big glass of Maker's Mark. And he didn't really smoke much throughout his life. It wasn't until I moved to California and started showing him the differences in marijuana that, you know, indicas, sativas, different strains, that he stopped drinking and just started smoking. And he says it's one of the biggest and most important changes he made in his lifestyle, because it's a whole different story waking up the next day after smoking maybe 2 or 3 puffs of a joint. That's all he smokes, instead of that whole big, you know, glass of vodka or whatever you're drinking.
Yeah.
I will say I never wake up with a hangover from weed, but I will say, word to the wise, edibles can give you a next morning hangover sometimes.
Sure. Well, it could still be in your system, because as you sleep, your metabolism slows down and you digest slower. So a lot of people who take them at night to fall asleep will say that they wake up and they're still stoned.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is fun. I mean, to me, like that to me is a bonus. Like I got to enjoy the it's like an Ambien. And then you wake up, and it's almost like a Vicodin.
Yeah.
See,
you get the best of both worlds.
I won't eat edibles much anymore, because when we first started out the edibles company, the 2 people I was working with were straight edge. They weren't smokers, so we would start creating the edibles, and I had to be the test dummy to see if they were strong enough or tasty enough,
or too strong.
Right. So for 90 days, I ate gummy bears every night. That some nights I'd be passed out. Some nights I passed right out. Some nights I'd be talking, not knowing what I was talking about. Some nights, I'd feel nothing and say, you got to make them stronger or whatever. But it's kind of like, a father that catches his son smoking, makes him smoke the whole pack.
Yeah.
At this point, I just can't eat edibles, because it was too much for me for those 3 months.
And plus, it's got to kill your tolerance for regular weed.
Sure.
You know, just smoking it almost takes the fun out of it.
Well, that 3 months was certainly just walking around in a dream state for me. And again, eating edibles every single night over and over, it really made my whole time, my week go by that felt like I was out of it.
I've got introspective about the whole smoking versus eating and or vaporizing, and I think that I'm semi-addicted to the actual act of the smoking, the ceremony,
the ritual of it. Yeah.
The breaking it up, the packing the bowl, the passing it around, or the rolling the joint.
I'm in 100% agreement on that. That it's really smoking a joint and passing it around is what
it's almost a ceremony.
Yeah, and again, like I said, that's how I get to know everyone. because you sit down and you smoke with them, and it's not some sort of business tactic I have. That's just what life is. You sit down, you smoke a joint with someone, you bond with them, you get to know them, you share some stories, have a few laughs, and all of a sudden you're a friend for life. And that's how I met so many of my very good friends, just by getting to know them from smoking marijuana together. So I think that it's important to not take that aspect out of it. That the ceremony of it is really is something social to it. And even when it's not social, just smoking my joint, it still brings me back to my childhood when I was first smoking behind the bleachers, which is also enjoyable for me mentally.
You haven't really gone far from the bleachers. It's just a lot better looking chicks on the bleachers now.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
A lot
He's
of
running the bleachers
Yeah.
is what's going on now. He was behind the bleachers before. Now he runs the bleachers.
Little Gino
and everything that goes on behind.
Little Gino smoking a joint under the bleachers like, I got an idea for my future, people. Now you listen to me. You listen to me, I got a future. This could all be ours.
no one who knows me from my childhood really is surprised by what has happened for me and what I've accomplished ever since a kid. Since the third grade, I've always been an entrepreneur. In third grade, I was selling candy to all the kids in school. In fourth grade, I was selling fireworks. In sixth grade, we were getting Rambo knives out of the back of magazines and selling them to kids. I would have been arrested, as a sixth grader at this point. We one time sold a 6-foot blow gun. Certainly kids doing that these days would be thrown out of school. And throughout my high school, I worked at a beer distributor where somehow I got a lot of beer from. I'm not saying that was right, but I used to sell beer. And then as I went to college, I fell in love with marijuana, and that's really where my love started. And I was always taking care of all my friends that way in college. So, and then after college, I just started my own businesses that were not in, that were legitimate businesses. So I've always been doing something ever since a child. I've always been the same person. And so again, people who know me from before aren't surprised at all at what I've done here.
So what did you go to college for? Was it for business?
I went to college to be a police officer.
Oh shit!
Oh shit! This is a goddamn sting operation. Wait,
Yeah.
Gino owns a company that does government software.
Just fucked up, man.
He went to school to be a police officer.
Yeah.
And now this is the greatest sting operation of all time. Thank you, Gino.
Yeah.
Yep, I went to college to be a police officer. Everyone in my family is police officers. My father, my grandfather, cousins, everything like that. So I did think,
Serpico.
Yeah, so I did think that was my path. Turned out it wasn't. I realized that after college that I didn't want to be around guns and things like that. I knew that what it takes to be a police officer wasn't who I wanted to be. I live a stress-free and drama-free life. I can't even remember the last bad day that I had. So, growing up, my father, he had to deal with so much BS from people in New York City. He worked 42nd and Broadway in the 70s, where it was terrible. It wasn't Disney. It was the worst area ever. So he had to fight with people all day long and things like that. And luckily, I got blessed with such a good family that he didn't bring it home with him. And I never really realized until I became an adult. And he would say to me, the reason I never yelled at you guys as kids or got angry at things is because I was angry all day long dealing with terrible people. I was never going to be angry like that with my family, which I took to heart. And I don't want to be angry all day. I don't want to be fighting with people. I don't want people mad at me for anything. I live stress-free and drama-free, and I am so glad that my path changed.
I think we live like parallel lives, except you are way more successful than I am. But
like almost exactly
I work
the same.
Though. I I'm 32 now, and I worked factories for probably 10 years straight. And, you know, it was just one of those things where I needed a job in the meantime, and I got a job. And all of a sudden, you just get comfortable with that job. And you know what? I was really good at it. And I just had a high school diploma, but I'm a smart guy, so I moved my way up into like the best department you can get into and shit like that. But then one day, I really came to the realization, watching like a shift change at work, where people were coming in and just seeing the people that have been there for 20 plus years or whatever, every one of them had the most fucking miserable look on their face.
Mm-hmm.
To where, and I knew them at work too, and they were miserable people there. And like, if everyone's miserable at that point from working somewhere for this many years, just because it pays decent and you have decent health benefits,
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't take it anymore. And then that was one of the big things that pushed me into trying to do comedy. And I'm just treating it like college. I'm treating going into comedy like college. If I can't start making a semblance of a living in 4 or 5 years, maybe I'll turn back to go into that miserable life just to support myself.
Well, you should be proud of that decision because a lot of people in America won't be able to make that decision. They need to live that 9 to 5 life, and you either are a 9 to 5er or you're not. And I always knew that I wasn't. You know, it's very hard for me. I don't wear a watch. I don't believe in someone telling me what time to be anywhere. It's hard enough to try and be somewhere for me at a certain time every week just to do some kind of broadcast. But if you are that type of person that can break free from needing that security and do your own thing, it's the only way to make yourself a success beyond what's possible by being paid per hour. If you get paid per hour and you say my time is only worth this much money, there's always a ceiling that you can't break with that. So I always try and tell people one of my keys to success is not putting a value on your time per hour, because then your potential of earning is only that much. You should be able to figure out a way that your potential is worth your project, what you're accomplishing, not your per hour time.
That's exactly why I was even joking around with you earlier about just, do you need an intern? Because do you know what just interning, like people are scared of that thought of working for free.
Yeah.
But if working for free will get you to where you need to be, like most people that are really successful at one point in their life had to do a bunch of shit that they didn't want to do.
Yeah.
For free.
That's one thing Adam, back when I used to listen to Adam Carolla's podcast, is like, you're going to do a lot of shit you don't want to do, or maybe you do, but you're going to end up doing a lot of shit for free. And it's not that you're doing it for free, it's that the things that you're doing, as long as you're doing it for the right reasons, the things you're doing are going to end up helping in the things that you end up making money for. So it's not about making money, it's about doing the things that you do, whether they're free or not, but in the end, it's going to end up. And entrepreneurs have talked about this too, like Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, like people that are doing startups. They're like, everybody wants to know when you're going to start monetizing your idea. And the thing that I've always heard, not that I'm anywhere in that industry or anything like that, but one of the things that I've always heard them say is you got to go as far as you can with the money you have and do as much as you can without even having to worry about how you're going to make money doing it. Because when it's time, then you'll know. But until then, you got to work on building what the fuck you're doing.
If anyone will teach you anything for free, learn it. And that's what I learned. That was a big thing I learned from working in factories. Like, they would offer a new program. It would be like, hey, do you want to learn this new machine that just came out? And I'm like, I would volunteer for everything that they would teach me. Sure. Just to, looking out for my job. If I'm trained on 20 different things, that I'm as valuable as 20 different people.
Sure.
Yeah, for that company.
And which is like
anyway.
you were saying, being a Renaissance man, having a little bit of this and that and everything else, and then packaging that all into one is what everyone needs to do to really be successful.
Well, everything that we just said, I agree with. But I do want to point out that I'm not hating on 9 to 5ers because
Yeah.
they're certainly
Oh, no.
so important. And I'm also not hating on the cops. I love the cops. Like I said, everyone in my family is law enforcement. Certainly you hear plenty of bad stories, but you never hear about all the good stories. So I don't want to say that my choices are for everyone. There's something to be said if you're a father and you want to work that 9 to 5 because you're supporting your family and doing it. That's super important, and not enough people do realize that they have to just take care of their responsibilities. On the other side of that coin, again, I do think people should take chances. And that's the only way to get somewhere else if you're not happy with where you.
And I know Ray and I are both not fathers.
Yeah.
So are you not a father also, Gino?
Gino is a single guy, so
So you're not a. So wait, I would like to say, in honor of us all being not fathers.
Oh yeah.
Happy not Father's
Happy
Day.
not Father's Day, guys.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Happy, I'm glad that you've all been responsible for where you've deposited your sperm through the years. I think way too many people don't know how to pull out. And I even tweeted about that earlier. I'm like,
Happy sucking at pulling out day. Yeah.
Happy way not to pull out day.
And that is not easy in my position with some of the ladies that I meet.
Yeah. One can only
you
imagine.
Know what? To me, it's always been easy because
You're halfway out anyway.
I stumbled onto my dad's porn when I was really young. So even to me, even when I started having sex, I didn't even know that you were supposed to blow it in a girl because I'd never seen that happen. Like I thought that's how everything. You just pulled out and blew it all over her face or wherever it went.
Your first girlfriend must have loved you.
Yeah, she's like, what the fuck are you doing? It stings.
I can't see anymore. No, it's how I learned, So
Like, that's what you told her.
When guys are like,
I learned it from my dad. Okay.
I was drunk, so that's how she got pregnant because I couldn't pull out. I'm like, what do you mean you couldn't pull out? Like that's a foreign subject to me. Like I can't pull out.
So speaking of pulling out, Gino, you went to college to be a cop. What influence? And you seem like, I would have guessed business, just because you seem like you know what the fuck's going on. Not that I know what the fuck's going on. I didn't even go to college. But do you have like inspirational, like are there people, like other business people or businesses that you look up to or like maybe draw from?
Absolutely. Now, before I talk about that, I just want to say something that's so important, that I have a full staff of people that work so hard, and they really run my companies. I just make decisions and try and put the right people in the right places to make things happen. And that's why I've got to where I am. On the production side of things, I have two partners. One is my brother AJ, and then Jennifer. They run the production side of everything, all the broadcasts and everything. All I do is walk around and sit on broadcasts and talk to celebrities and smoke some weed and things like that. I just make decisions.
Just another example of how shitty your life is.
They are the workhorses here, and without them, all would be probably an illegal drug dealer. Luckily, I have smarter people than myself that run most of the operations in all of my businesses. That's important for me. If I was trying to give off reasons that I've been able to build success, build success, it is because I've been able to give up some of the reins where you want to do everything yourself. You want to do everything yourself because no one could do it as good as you can. But you have to let someone else do it slightly less as good as you to move on to other things, and just know that they'll do it good enough that it'll work, and just continue to evolve to get better and better. So that's also an important concept for me, that I am certainly not doing this on my own. That I have a great team of people that run everything for me, from the broadcast side of things and Speedweed. On both sides, I just have great teams. So that all said, as far as people that I admire in business, like I said, we based our model on Hostess. When we hit one of our major milestones, the day we hit one of our major milestones, Hostess went out of business. So it was like a bittersweet celebration to say our whole business that we base things on is now going out of business. However, if I could get 60 years Twinkie sales, I would take that for sure.
Yeah, and it's junk food versus like something that's actually good for people. So the longevity of the product that you're dealing with is slightly different too.
LASpeedweed.com.
Yeah.
And munchies are important. So Twinkies, it's hard to not have Twinkies.
Hey, you know what? They sold that. They sold the recipe.
Sure. I mean, there's money to be made there, so
it
someone
will
has
live
to.
on.
Yeah.
What if they sold it to Gino? Gino, did you buy that recipe? Because that would.
But we do also bring, besides medical edibles, we also have munchie bags that you can get 2 bags of chips and 2 candy bars that come with your order as well.
That's you heard about.
Do you bring a 6-pack and a pack of cigarettes?
See, we won't do the alcohol because that would tobacco and alcohol would get into sales
territory.
Sales that we can't do, because then it would be sales. We give away the munchie bags, and so that there's no legality in that. We don't people don't pay for those.
Nice.
I used to work for a pizza delivery place that used to deliver cigarettes and alcohol.
Wow.
But that was definitely
not legal.
I'm not going to say the name of the place because it's so illegal.
Are they even still open?
Yeah. Totally.
I'm sure they would have stopped off to get you a Jugs magazine too.
No, I grew up in a village. So this place is the local bar. If anyone knows me that listens to this podcast, they'll know where this is. But
they might be sitting in that place right now.
No one listens to this podcast.
Yeah. Just a few people.
Well, anyone listening to the podcast at LA Speedweed, at the Thought Guru, please follow me. Appreciate all the tweets, all the follows. Love seeing them. Deathsquad for life.
Absolutely. So what do you have? What's next for Joint Studios? What's next for LA Speedweed? What's next for you?
Well, we do have some, to take a page out of Sam's book, we have some important news coming that I can't really talk about yet.
Christ,
is this the undisclosed mansion project?
Now that project I can talk about. That is going to be up and running soon. We do have that all in the works. So you could look forward to Gino'sHideaway.com coming soon. And then also some of the things that we are doing on the broadcast side of things. I can't exactly give you much info, but I can tell you Bigger and Better is coming, and more shows that aren't specific to adult content, and a lot of big names and big shows coming.
Nice. So what are some of the shows that you have going on now? I know you have a shitload of them. Are there some that like stand out as your I don't know, I guess you can't say your favorites, but what are your favorites?
Well, Tiffany Granith certainly is one of the big ones. She did Playboy Night Calls. She came over from Playboy Radio. She's still broadcast on XM. She was I think she's the number 1 female host on XM, and I believe she's number 2 talk show after Howard, or number 3. And and she's certainly one of my favorites. She's always, always a good show, great content. Her life's a little bit of a train wreck, but she gladly talks all about it and gives great advice. She can't take her own advice, but she certainly can give it out. So, excuse me. So she's a good show. Debbie Diamonds is always naked, having sex with some kind of dildo in the studio there. She's on, I think she's 2 days a week, and she has this. Recently, she had this unicorn dildo. Where the horn is the dildo part, and yeah,
The dildo corn?
So is this more of a video podcast than an audio podcast? Is that
Yeah,
like the
so
best way
most
to
of
enjoy it?
Yeah, most of the pretty much 90%, or 95%, whatever you want to say. Most of our shows are all video, podcasts, so video broadcasts. So those are some good shows. We also have Gary Garver from the Howard Stern Show. He used to be the celebrity interviewer. He does a great show. A lot of celebrity call-ins. He had Lou Ferrigno call in the other day. It was great. We have Gretchen Bonaducci, Danny Bonaducci's wife. She does a show here now also, which is a pretty good one. Esai Morales, who was on NYPD Blue. He was the captain of NYPD Blue, and then also he was on Bad Boys with Sean Penn. And then also he was in La Bamba. He was the brother.
Nice.
Oh shit, he was the brother in La Bamba?
The brother in La Bamba.
The artist?
Yeah. He was so angry, the drunk. Yeah. So.
Oh my god, I love that fucking movie.
Yeah. So he's doing a show here. It's pretty good. We got Sam Phillips, who's on now. Sam Phillips is a former Penthouse model, and she
Among
does
many other things.
she does a show, the Pajama Party. So
Nice.
we got a bunch of girls in there in their pajamas, and I think there's a bunch of male review
men in there
guys
now.
doing some dancing.
Well, I'm Keith is very disappointed we're not able to see the male dancers, but that's okay. we'll survive.
Shucks.
So when you're not busy creating all these awesome things and delivering weed to celebrities, what do you do for fun? What's Gino do when he's not working?
You know, I do roll around in a few entourages that have really are friends of mine, people that I've met again through the different companies that I run. So a lot of time in my downtime, I get to travel with Sky Blue from LMFAO. He's one of my good buddies. This weekend we were at the bank at the Bellagio in Las Vegas, which is always a good time. So it's hard to say my social life because my professional life and my social life kind of are one and the same. And when I'm hanging out up at the mansion with beautiful girls, that's still my social life. I always say that you could either consider me working 24 hours a day or never working at all. It's really the same exact thing to me.
That's awesome. That's a dream anyone can aspire to, I'm sure. Well, maybe not the exact same dream. I know for Keith and I, it would probably be the same dream. But for some people, it might be different.
No, I really enjoy being a receptionist at a hair salon
Keith.
in Northwest Ohio.
Yeah.
While also doing comedy on the side.
Well, see, like I said, Keith might be different. He might have.
Now,
I mean,
that said,
For
also,
real.
a good portion of my social life is spent right here at the Comedy Store in Hollywood, where where all my good friends are, with Sam and Red Band and Teeb and everyone performing there, nightly, every few nights. That's one of my favorite hangouts because I get to, number one, hang out with those guys, and when they're not doing their sets, they're equally as funny as...
hang out with comics is so much better than hang out with anyone else.
Sure.
And doing comedy, like, that's how when I have to do my regular job of being a receptionist and talk to normal people, it fucking pains me
Yeah.
because I'm usually hanging out with people where it's no holds barred. You say whatever you want. You fucking make fun of whoever you want.
You
It's,
know,
you know,
I preach positivity to every single person and tell them that's how I've built my empire, on positivity and doing the right thing, except when I'm down at the Comedy Store. I won't preach positivity to any comic because they need to be negative as anything to pull out that good down the dark material.
Yeah.
So, I don't preach positivity to any comics. I want that darkness. Show me the darkness.
So, were you into stand-up comedy before LA?
I sure was. Strangely enough, again, I told you I preach positivity to everyone. I believe heavily in the law of attraction, and I know it sounds like hippie bullshit, but I believe you can manifest your destiny. I know I have. I think every single person can. And before I got out to LA, I was talking to my brother, and I was talking about moving out there, and had no, again, desire to do a weed company, to do a broadcast studio. Nothing along those lines. And he said to me, "Oh, you come out here, you'll meet some models, some actresses, some stars. You'll have a good time." I said, "I could care less. I'm not starstruck by anyone. The only person I really care about that matters to me is Joe Rogan. I love Joe Rogan. Everything about him is exactly why I want to move to California." And then a year later, I was on at the Ice House, hanging out with Joe, and my brother called me up and said, "You realize that a year ago, you said to me, you manifested that the only person in Hollywood that you care about is Joe Rogan, and here you are sitting across from him on the Ice House Chronicles." And it was really a something that I didn't connect until he said those words, and it took me aback to say it's just another proof positive of being able to manifest your own destiny.
I swear Gino and I live parallel lives, except his is just always a little bit better. Because
Just
a
a
year
little
ago,
bit?
I was a guest on this podcast. Ray had a different co-host.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean I
And-
might be able to take your spot?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
If you would love to be, if you have some time on Sundays from 7 to
But-
9.
But I had never done comedy.
Yeah.
And I even said on the podcast that my dream is to do comedy. And then I think within 3 months after that, I had done my first show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a year since then. And his other co-host had to drop off. And so I stepped in.
Living
Ray
the
and I have
dream.
never actually met. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, San Diego, Ohio.
You didn't send any ricin in the mail to the other co-host, did you?
No,
Well,
I'm not
he's
at
still
liberty
alive.
to speak.
I will-
Yeah, we had a reunion
We
show.
just did a podcast
Yeah.
with him.
We had a reunion show with my old
Alive
two
and well.
podcasts. Yeah, and the animatronics were amazing. Let's put it that way.
But yes, so we've never met, and actually,
Yeah.
I'm gonna plug it again, and I swear we're gonna start it.
we.
Kickstarter program
Yeah.
for me to get out to California, for us to do some live podcast, and me to do some comedy out there.
Can I donate an eighth of weed to that?
Absolutely.
You can donate whatever you want.
You can donate. Donations
Again,
are
get
welcome
out
of any
there.
form.
I'm just gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna find you and be like, yeah,
Remember?
I'll be an intern. No problem.
You're just gonna show up and start working. He's like, I'll just take trash out.
I'm gonna make you sit outside the door for a week first.
That's awesome.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, he'll do it.
Fight Club style.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
give a fuck. Shave
You're
my
gonna
head.
have to have a tight five for me, and as soon as you got me laughing for the tight five, then you could come in the door.
I think
You
you'd do
love
that.
dick jokes.
Who doesn't love a good dick joke?
Who doesn't love a good dick joke?
I don't know. Hopefully and hopefully it's a good 5-minute dick joke.
If it's just down to 5, shit, I've got a real solid 5. Like, I just have problems when everyone gives me like 20 minutes for an odd show. I'm like, oh Jesus.
It's like 20 minutes. I gotta remember how much.
The last show I did, it was even an open mic, but he just ran long. Like, he was like, all right, everyone gets 5 minutes. So I had my 5 minute set ready. And I did 5 minutes. And there was no light. And I know I did. I actually, it was 6 because I recorded it. And I ended up doing like 9 minutes on a 5 minute set. So I just had to like pull shit out of my ass. I don't know. It's always a big. I'm always pulling shit out of my ass, I should say.
Yeah, he's a lot of brown jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that might get you in the door.
There you go, Keith. Now you just need to set up the Kickstarter, and we'll promote the shit out of it.
Now I just got to get out to California.
Yeah. Well, you got to do the Kickstarter first, and then everything will happen. Everything. Right?
How much do kidneys go for?
I don't know. $20. Something like that.
All right.
I don't know if you could sell them, but it's you drink. But anyway.
I thought that was liver.
Yeah, they're both screwed. Liver's screwed too. That's why everybody should just be smoking weed. And if you're in the LA area, go to LASpeedweed.com.
LASpeedweed.com.
Save your liver. Live a little bit longer, a little bit happier, a little bit better.
Anyone
And
who signs
Gino.
up and mentions the podcast, I will give a free gram to.
Holy shit.
In your referral code, just put in Inspired Disorder, and you get a free gram with your order.
That's
as well as $30 of free edibles and a bunch of other free stuff I'll throw in there just for saying Inspired Disorder.
There
At
you go, people.
LASpeedweed.com.
Exactly. And I live in Sandy fucking Ego. This is
Oh,
horrible.
hey, Bray.
Yeah, I know. Shut up, Keith. I understand Ohio's worse, but
Fuck yourself. Ohio.
yeah.
What? But Keith, what is holding you back? You talked about moving out here. What is it? Just money?
Money. All right, here's my situation. I got into a really bad car accident a couple years ago, like 3 years ago, where I flew out of my vehicle and I fucked myself up pretty bad.
You're
I was
not a
drunk.
tumbler.
Yeah,
No.
I was drunk while I was driving. My fault, obviously.
I guess
But,
you have no pending court case.
No, I'm all good with all that, and I could get my license back if I had the money. That's the only thing holding me back. Like, I just don't have the funds. Like, and I'm starting out in comedy while working a side job just because I won't go back. Like, and actually, my body physically can't handle factory work anymore. I can't stand for that long. I've broken both my knees at different points in my life. I've got the rheumatoid arthritis that you were talking about earlier. I was gonna jump in about like I've already got all the crooked fingers, and actually I found out how bad my arthritis was when I went to jail for my DUI of my wreck because I could not medicate, and it had been so long since I hadn't. And then I realized, Jesus, my fingers feel like they're going to fall off. But yeah, money is the only reason I can't move out there. And to get seen in a big market, like that's why I like to do the podcast. That's why I try to do as many shows as I can out here. But it's almost impossible. Like
Sure.
I need to hit the lottery.
Or just start the Kickstarter, and we'll get it going.
Something.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, that would be something. It would help at least get out.
At least to get out there.
Yeah. Well,
Gareth already said he wanted to be at our reunion show.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We'll do it at the Joint Studios if I can make it out there.
Sure, absolutely.
yeah, just pencil us in, Gino. Come on.
Yeah, we just have to confuse enough people.
Yeah. Well, you'll already be interning there, Keith, so you'll be able to remind.
Come on.
Yeah, you'll be able to remind him later.
That's the lottery for me right now.
Yeah. Well, shit, guys. We're getting close to the 2-hour mark. So this has been an awesome podcast, man. I don't know.
Yes,
I'm probably going to be 10 minutes later. I'll be like, fuck, I forgot to ask. Fuck, I forgot to ask. There's going to be a lot of other questions.
I apologize. I just start talking and I don't stop. So,
No, that's good.
on a lot of the different broadcasts, I actually try not to say too much because I don't want to step on people, and especially when I'm working with comedians that I know real well. I know what it's like, what they're doing, so I don't want to step on anyone's jokes. I don't want to overtalk on people doing broadcasts, so I try not to say all that much. However, I could talk on and on. I just try and do that purposely. So I'm just, I'm not the center stage in any broadcast, of course.
Yeah. Well, when I obviously first heard about you through the Naughty Show, but when I heard you on Duncan Trussell's podcast, I was like, I would love to get Gino on my podcast. Took a little while, and then it happened. So here you are, and it's been awesome. And I'm glad we had the opportunity to, chat and get to know you and all that, and all that stuff.
Well, you did the right thing by sending out Jill to get me, because as soon as she hit me up on Twitter, I was right back on it.
Yeah.
She really is great. What she does for you guys, and she was right on it the whole time.
Fuck yeah, man! She makes my job easier, and she does an awesome job. And she's been sick, so shout out to Jill. She's been battling with freaking infections. She had surgery. #shows.com. But Gino, where can everybody find you and everything online?
Well, you could find me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, at laspeedweed.com. You could look up The Joint Studios LA at The Joint Studios LA. That's on Twitter. Or you can find us at laspeedweed.com, speedweed.com, thejointstudios.com, and all over this LA area.
And for anybody in the LA area, call 888-860-8472 and use just mention that you listen to this podcast, Inspired Disorder.
Inspired Disorder.
And Gino's going to hook you up. And I don't know how many people in LA actually listen to this. I know Vicky listens to it, so maybe she'll be hitting you up for a free gram. But yes, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, and I can't wait for. Or I'm sure there's a lot of people in San Diego that can't wait for
and look out for
the expansion.
Ray's Illuminati shirt.
Oh yeah, I did the Illuminati. Their shirt they're coming out with, their Illuminati. One of the two shirts I designed for them. Yeah. So Keith, can everybody find you, sir?
Keith Spurlock 1 on Twitter, on Facebook, YouTube, InspiredDisorderCollective.com, InspiredDisorder.com, and that's about it.
Yeah. And at Ray Taylor.
You guys are already a collective. I like that. That's you guys are getting your collective together.
Our podcast network is called the Inspired Disorder Collective, and we're about 16 to 20 podcasts total in the collective. And we have a website. It's like a social network, InspiredDisorderCollective.com.
Now, under California law, you could grow 6 plants for each person in your collective.
Okay. Well, I think I may be one of the only ones in California, so I'll just do everything for everybody else. It'll be IOU notes.
Look out for our Kickstarter.
Yeah, look out for our Kickstarter.
Really needing to get out to California.
And also, if you go to InspiredDisorder.com, you can save 10%. I'm working on new artwork. Art prints should be going up soon. But you can save 10% by using coupon code INSPIRED. When you check out, and still working on trying to get all my shit ready for the art show next week. So a lot of stuff is going on.
My next comedy show, July 12th.
July 12th.
At the Q, Findlay, Ohio.
Nice.
Come see it.
I want to see that poster, man, so I can talk shit about it.
Actually, you might be making it.
Okay, well, let me know.
We fired the DJ. So.
Okay. Oh, is that the guy that was going to do it?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool, man. Well, thank you again, Gino, for coming on. It's been a pleasure, and you're an amazing dude, and hopefully we'll get a chance to meet and hang out and talk again, all that kind of stuff. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Another episode, InspiredDisorder.com. Peace out. All right, man.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Inspired Disorder podcast. Embedded signals within this podcast have reprogrammed your natural thinking patterns. Side effects may include lack of inhibitions, erectile dysfunction, anal leakage, transcendental communication with beings from 4 of the 7 primary dimensions. In the event of a tear in space-time, please keep your hands down and feet together. Any loss of life or limbs due to interdimensional travel is not the responsibility of this podcast.